Hello, I'm Nathan, better known as CrazyhermitDM. I'll be here guiding you through the sprawling landscapes of tabletop RPGs, sharing my views, experiences, and opinions. And joining me on my quest are my fellow adventuring friends, each wielding their own storytelling ability and boundless passion for the community we have come to love so much. Welcome to my podcast, The Hermit's Homebrew. I have about 15 years of experience with multitudes of tabletop games and all that. We also will have Brent, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, my name's Brent. I'm on Instagram, Langeministudios. Not as experienced as Nate. I've been playing tabletop games on and off since mid 2000s, the 3.5 glory days. Did anything from D&D to Call of Cthulhu, and just even had one or two shots in second edition. Glad to have the 3.5 post 3.5 rules. Second edition was a nightmare. Really glad to have Nate as DM, really creative guy, really showed me a lot of my downfalls as a DM, and just glad to be gaming post COVID. Thanks for the introduction.
And then Kilk.
My name is Chase Mitchell. I go by Kilk online. I'm probably the newest member to tabletop games. My first time ever was with you, Nathan, actually, when Nick brought me over to your house. But I've always been a fan. I've always been a fan of all the D&D stuff. I just one of those people that never really found a group. My experience on tabletop mostly comes from things like Warhammer and stuff like that. So I've only been around for a few years, but I've been loving every minute of it. So,
and yeah, that's like, even with the three of us, we have different expertise and different things. Like you two have way more knowledge of Warhammer and 40K and the Fantasy Age and Age of Sigmar and among a dozen other expansions there that I have
I hate the Age
about.
of Sigmar.
Even in death, I serve the Omnisci.
Oh man, I loved fantasy so much.
And I think that's the cool thing about with what drew me to Warhammer is that it still has it's technological in the far future and stuff like that, but you still have that fantasy feel of it with the magic and your space elves and your space orcs. You still have all of that, but then you just have guns and warp drives.
Yeah, it was basically like a reskinning, is what it really felt like. But
that's what most of the expansions are, from at least my limited understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. But the D&D journey so far has been awesome. You know, I used to play. I played the original Baldur's Gate. I'm sure we'll talk about Baldur's Gate and stuff like that at some point.
Yeah.
And so I was always been big into these types of games. I was just never able to find a group to play with. And so when Nick approached me to do that with you guys, I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm going in.
And then you started out with a Black Panther Tabaxi Gloomstalker Rogue.
Wow. Ranger, Gloomstalker Ranger, yeah.
Yeah. And then you started out at a higher level.
So I started it
right away. Sorry.
Yeah, you gave me. We were level 13 when I walked in, so my first character I ever made to play at a table with was level 13. So I had a lot to learn.
Wow! Yeah, right in the deep end. Holy cow!
But it was really cool. It was a really fun. That was a pretty interesting campaign. I liked it.
Yeah, and then currently with our current campaign, we've gone from 1, which is I've actually usually always started at about 2 or 3 or level 4. So that was the lowest I've ever started, and then we're already all the way at 10 and getting ready to probably level next session again.
If my character lasts that long.
Yeah. Oh yes, with the craziness of losing his paladin last session and then his patron being freed from a intelligent artifact shield. It was quite the ending.
Thanks, Chase. Really appreciate that.
It was cool. It was cool. So you mentioned that we started this one at level 1. I think giving a good background on, Nathan, your world and the homebrew setting that you've created, because I walked in to what I believe was maybe the third campaign in your setting,
Yeah.
or it could be the
It'd be
second,
the
because I
third.
know Brent was part of it too, an earlier one.
Yeah. So, Brent was part of the first, Brent was part of the first campaign, which was the first ever 5e campaign I ran, and that was they asked me to basically dungeon master because he was originally the dungeon master for 4th edition one, and that lasted I think about a dozen and a half sessions,
Yeah.
and then it petered out, and then we went to 5th edition, and then I said, and we'd always ran in Forgotten Realms. I think we were running an Ebrion and the 4th edition one that you had run.
Yeah, I did that wrong. Yep.
And online, I had heard nothing but just like, you can run in pre-published campaigns, but the real challenge for a dungeon master is to create your own setting. And yeah, it really was. Plus, it's a lot more freeing than Forgotten Realms because you're really like not bound by their lore. You get to make up your own stuff.
Yeah, you tell someone, oh, we're gonna run a game in Forgotten Realms. They're like, oh, okay, are we gonna be in Icewind Dale, or are we gonna run into, a dual scimitar wielding dark elf, or are we gonna be in Baldur's Gate? That's it.
Or you start off in like so and so city. I can't even think of a name right now, but like Raven Bluff, I think, which is way off in the middle of the thing, and then you start coming up with a little bit of your own lore. Well, you can go, if you have a particular person that's a lore buff, they can go to the wiki and just like countermand. It's like, this is actually what happened.
Or suddenly it's, well, I read a book written
Yeah.
10 years ago, and you're like, oh, well, okay, I'm kind of pigeonholed now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be fair, they did come out that space book recently, right?
Spelljammer,
in the last
yeah.
few months, yeah. So they're spending a little bit.
Which, yeah, faltered with their chimpanzee monkey race with their depiction in it. That was quite amusing.
Oh yeah, what was the debacle with that?
The debacle was, what was it? Some of the original artwork, which I do own from a previous giveaway, because I ended up keeping that one for myself and then giving the giveaway winner the 2nd edition of it, which is the revised version of it. But I can't not remember that race for the life of me. I think it's the Eldrazi or something like that. But it was
That sounds familiar.
it was
That's
a
because I think
chimpanzee
Eldrazi
kind of,
comes
yeah, it
from
was like a
Magic
chimpanzee
Gathering.
monkey race where basically these wizards or the elves, I know they were wizards, they might have been elven wizards. Basically, they came to this monkey kind of planet and taught them how to be civilized and
no.
elevated them.
Oh,
It was like
okay.
a
Very
Planet of the
colonial.
Apes. It was a Planet
Yes.
of the Apes remake using wizards.
Yes, and
okay.
well, and then with the artwork, it showed a lot of like very taboo, kind of just wrong in my opinion, just colonial, like
Probably had some racial undertones in their artwork.
yeah, racial tensions of it was the colonists that basically like taught these people how to be better.
Name is the Hadozi.
Hodozi,
Hadozi.
Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't the
Oh.
Eldrazi is the Eldrazi like Magic the Gathering or something?
Yes.
Oh yeah, the Eldrazi are like Emrakul and
Yeah,
stuff like
which
that.
are very H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu-ish, which is another amazing tabletop
Oh yeah,
that we could go on another half-hour side tangent for. But
oh, absolutely, I'm down for that.
with my
I'm sure
setting
we
though, I
will.
think, yeah, with my setting though, what was it? We'd started out and we even chose the Penanthlon, and it was actually Brent, because I was like, we had in the player's handbook they had all like
Oh yeah.
the different Penanthlons, and I'm like, well, what one do you guys want? Because I'll just go off this. And he's like, Nordic. And then no one argued. And it just went from there. And then I just started building a very Nordic world or high fantasy Nordic world and just went from there.
I'm actually surprised no one countered me on that one. I was expecting someone to go, well, why not Greek or why not Egyptian, but Norse.
I mean, everybody likes
okay,
Vikings.
so we're going with.
Let's be real. At the time, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was probably kicking off.
Yeah, Thor had probably
know,
come out with
there's-
either a second or a third movie at that point in time.
Yeah.
And God of War, was it that
Oh,
first
God of War, yeah.
or the remake of God of War where he's in the Nordic thing had just I think
Boy.
started coming out.
Boy.
Okay, that was probably where I had all those seeds in the back of my mind, and so I just shotgun this.
So
We grew from there. What's that? Sorry.
what was the first campaign that you did in this Nordic setting that we're in now?
So the original concept was this is the original premise of it was a very Narnia quantum leap. Basically,
Isekai.
there's a book called Guardians of the Flame, and basically these people at their D&D table get sucked into the game themselves because the DM wants into this world because he can see into it.
Okay, so it's a little
the group
Jumanji-like.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so basically the premise of the campaign was you got sucked into your character's thing. How do we get back? How do we figure out how to get back? And then that was literally level 4 to 20. We actually made it to the end game with that one for about 40 sessions.
Yeah.
And was that the Dom and Jarl?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
where my character Domdraw came from.
Our current
And
God of
just as a side
Justice
note,
in our setting.
I do want to say that was the first campaign that I ever did that we actually made it to level 20. It's actually the first campaign in my experience that I actually finished. Like every game that I've ever done, we would get halfway through and then peter out, or ADHD brain would kick in and, oh, hey, let's go. I want to play this character. And then all of a sudden, oh, okay, cool. Let's go play that character. Let's go play a different campaign. So that one holds a special place in my heart because it is the first one that I took a character all the way from beginning to end, level 20. Holy cow, we actually did it. And then, I ended up becoming the new God of Justice.
And I remember, Nathan, you told me one time, obviously Ragnarok happened in that campaign.
So part of the reason why Brent has PTSD to your very current character in our be the 5th campaign, I think, by now, with your Satyr Wild Magic Sorcerer, is because in that very first campaign was a Satyr Bard. And Satyrs in the lore of my world are basically goatkin, or they came about from a very adulterous bet between Loki and Thor when Loki was challenged very drunkenly to have his way with Hedrun, the mead goat of Valhalla. And that resulted in satyrs being born.
Hey, leave it to Loki to populate the multiverse with something ridiculous.
Yes. Yeah. And so this does make technically satyrs either a fae or a celestial race, depending, and a descendant of Loki. Well, this first satyr was the son or the grandson of Loki.
I think he was the grandson.
Yeah. Actually, no. I think he was actually the son.
Oh, okay.
He was one of the 3 original satyrs, I think.
Oh.
Because it was him and another character named Godric, I think I had named
Godric,
that.
Yep.
And then there was a third one that just remained unnamed because no one went and found him.
Yeah, pulling that thread.
But about halfway through them traveling across this kind of road trip continent thing to go find this very powerful artifact to get back home, I have Loki transport this character into where he's being basically tied to a rock after killing Balder. And I start giving this basically very monologue or whatever that I actually had written out of trying to convince him, hey, let me go. And in the middle of the monologue, just because I don't know if this character or this player really wanted to role play it out, or he just didn't want to. He just unties Loki.
Yep, just freeze Loki from his rock. Yep.
And then the blood just drained out of his face because he's the only one that in that group at the time really knew anything about Norse mythology. And you could tell Brent just you just started the end of the world.
Yeah, it was kind of like low-key, not to make a pun, but it was just kind of like, hey, we don't want to do that. Don't free him. Don't do this. Nope, I'm doing it. Oh, no.
Because by the prophecy of Ragnarok, it starts when Loki is freed.
Yep. So yeah, so that's my character was there the day the world started to end, and then just the shenanigans that followed afterwards. It's just so when you said you were gonna play a satyr, yeah, I immediately like started having flashbacks to Vietnam. I'm like, oh, here we go again.
And
So
by the end of the campaign, the group was basically just trying to prevent Ragnarok, on top of getting home.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually came. We had a couple of interesting discussions of, okay, if we figure out how to get home, do we just bail? And this world just gets to fend for itself, even though we're walking around as some of the most powerful heroes this world's ever seen. Do we just dip out? And it kind of got to be like a little moral quandary there for a while, to where it's like, no, once we figure this out, we kind of have to you leave the place, at least better than what it started out as. If not that, then kind of make up for the fact that one of our guys literally started the end of the world. So it got to be where, well, wow, we actually have to be heroes now.
well, at one point, the end of the world was going to start regardless, right? Even if
Yeah,
it wasn't you, someone else would have.
Yeah, someone else would have. Yeah, exactly.
I just didn't as a dungeon master, I did not expect it to be the very first campaign with my brand new campaign world that I'm trying to build, and then it's like, oh, you guys are literally going to destroy this brand new world that I just made.
Brand new world. We're gonna blow it up. Ah, great. Yeah, welcome
That's-
to players.
Right, leave it to D&D guys.
Yeah, leave it to the chaotic D&D players to just burn everything down.
Well, that would make sense. Obviously, is why your aversion towards Toy Bar. Toy Bar's been a pretty fun character to play, though. He's
Honestly,
different
yeah,
than the other
my
characters that I've played.
prejudices aside, yeah.
And then beyond those campaigns after that first one has basically been dealing with this aberration threat, and then it just keeps petering out. And then you guys, COVID happened, and then real life happened for me to where I had to take a break from gaming for a bit. And then you guys came to me with you and Nick came to me with the Descent to Avernus book and say, hey, we want to run this, but we want you to run it.
Oh,
Yes.
that's how that went down.
So I was after the last campaign ended, like I wanted to keep playing.
Yeah.
But at the time, like without Nick, I didn't know how to do that, how to continue. And so I finally got convinced Nick to do it. I was like, Descent for Avernus came out, like, let's do that. And originally I didn't even think about, I thought we were just going to do, like the book and just run through it. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to put it in my campaign setting. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be baller. So yeah, this campaign restarted. It was myself and Nick. Yeah. Nick and I think his wife.
Yeah, and then that kind of petered out or whatever just because of different personal reasons.
Well, we're a little hardcore about, everyone's going to show up on this, and not every player is like that.
Yeah. Yeah, not everyone could commit to like a more regular schedule, and then just like life was happening and we weren't playing. We played like 2-3 sessions in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then I just kind of lost interest at that point. And then I go, well, hey, I know 2 people that actually already played in this world.
Yeah.
And that are experienced, and then you being moderately experienced, like these guys can definitely kind of like help a little bit, kind of show these guys how to do what I run this game and take another little thing off me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it worked out really well. Because Vicky and I are pretty committed to always making sure that we're available to do it unless there's extenuating circumstances. And I feel like it's the same way with you guys. So that automatically gives us a core 4 in the party, regardless if, other people will have to bail out or anything like that. So it's been really cool so far.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, like half of us work at the same place, and then Brent and his wife, they work at for the state of Nebraska and the school system there. But like, even what was it? Because like you guys are having like car issues, like I gave Vicky a ride home, and then that's what she talked about half the time. Is like, it's like, I wonder what's going to happen this Sunday because Brent's character's dead, and I have no clue where you're going to go with this.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love, and to be honest, I love thinking about what could happen. And I send things to Nathan all the time. I'm like, yo, what if this happened? What if this happened?
And then I'll be honest, half the time I'll take your idea and then I'll sit on it and it stirs in my head, and then I stir it and twist it and like, oh, that would be cool, but he already told me this way, so why don't I just twist it this way for it? That still is unexpected, but it was his seed that started it.
And that's the cool thing about Homebrew is you can do stuff like that. This is my first published setting, or I'm sorry, a published campaign that I've actually played through. My very first dungeon master was like Nate, super creative. Everything he did was homebrew from the ground up. And so when it got to the idea of, hey, we're gonna do a published campaign, I'll admit, like, I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm down to play D&D. I always am. But I gotta admit, I was a little hesitant because, oh, it's published. I can go online and I could figure everything out, or someone can go online and figure everything out. Everyone already knows everything. So we're just gonna be kind of on rails. But
and then, well, we had a player in that very first campaign that would do that. He'd get on his phone in the middle of combat and look up the stats of monsters, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I know how to defeat this monster."
No, and so that's what I got to give
the meta gamer, huh?
Props here. I'm sorry, what was that?
He's the meta gamer.
Yeah.
He was a meta gamer, a power gamer, and a mid maxer.
Oh, okay.
But that's the cool thing about what Nate's done is taking this campaign and applying his own spin on it. Is even Chase, you're the guy who makes all of the maps and everything. You've even said, "Oh, I have no idea what Nate's going to do with this." Like, and you literally had the book tell you what to do with the map, and if he could make it to where even you don't know what's coming, so I got to hand it to Nate for making it, more fly by the seat of your pants for me as far as I'm concerned, because I don't read the book. I don't want to. I want to go into this blind. And yeah, there have been times where I'm like, I have no clue what's going on, and I am terrified.
Yeah, it's been cool. So for those of you who don't know, I create our battle maps on a program that I have called Dungeon Alchemist that you can find on Steam. And I basically read through the book just on the parts of the maps, and I try to design these maps in the way that the book says, to the best of my ability, but knowing that, there are differences between Avernus and differences between, Muspelheim, right? And so I try to leave as much open. And normally, Nathan, when I do it, I send it to you like the day of or the day before, and I'm like, hey, thoughts? And like, I circle shit. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do here, so I just did this. Or, yeah, this one's really awesome. It's pretty much exactly like the book says it is, so you do whatever you want to do in all those rooms.
I think you've done that a couple times. You come to with the maps and you're like, I'm interested to see because I know what this feature is on the map. I'm interested to see what you do with it. And then it's like, well, I end up turning it into my own thing, and that's an even bigger surprise to you because you weren't expecting it to be that.
Yeah, and because I am the one that makes the maps, and so I know the map layout, obviously. I do my absolute best as Toy Bar,
and you do a good job.
Basically allow. So Brent, your character is, the captain of the guard, conquest paladin. So I try to let Toy Bar just let you lead, and let you just,
let me Mission Impossible my way into this thing, and you're like, hey, can we just go knock on the door?
And I just have Toy Bar be like, oh, I guess he's going this way. All right, let's go that way. Because that's kind of what Toy Bar would do anyway. And so far it's worked out pretty well.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this first episode of the Hermit's Homebrew. We have another episode coming out next week. Follow myself at CrazyhermitDM on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and very soon on YouTube and Patreon. My friends, Kilk, can be found on TikTok as well as Twitter, and my other friend, Langeministudio, can be found on Instagram.